Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sip and Simmer with me, Anita Manager. Okay, so last night we had a couple technical difficulties. If your phone is not rotating, just lock your screen and turn your phone and we'll be all good. Alright, so like I start every episode, we are here to spread positivity and light and be happy and joyous and not talk about all the crap that's going on outside. So, tonight I'm going to start the show with talking about the unsung hero in the house, our little pooches. Now, my good friend Sam from Sam I Am Dog Walking is starting a show herself, and it's going to be called Don't Forget the Pet. She's going to be live on Facebook on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5:30. There'll be fun tips and tools for you and your fur baby and your new home routines since everybody's been working from home and home a lot more than our pets are used to. So you can check out Sam I Am Dog Walking and Training on Facebook every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5:30. All right, who's ready to get a drink? Tonight, we are going with a hot toddy because it is gloomy outside and it's cold and I just wanted something warm and refreshing. So, I am super bougie and like I say all the time, I like to plate everything. So I make mine in a teapot. So in our teapot, I have 8 ounces of hot water and 2 tea bags. You can use 1 tea bag, but I like to use 2 just to get that real tea flavor. And then I've got my handy dandy shot glasses over here. Okay, so with the 2 tea bags and 8 ounces of hot water, I have 1.5 ounces of whiskey. I have 1 tablespoon of honey. Just to get it ready for the show, I diluted it in a little bit of hot water so it's easy to pour. I have 1 ounce of lemon juice, and I use the kind that you can keep in the refrigerator because who wants to squeeze a lemon? And that is literally the extent of our drink. You just give it a little swirl because you can't really stir it in the teapot. Give yourself a pour. And if you're feeling super fancy, you can get your little cinnamon shaker and just give it a little shake right on top. I could literally drink like 12 of these in a row. They're so refreshing, and you don't even realize that you're drinking that much. And you gotta be careful because it sneaks up on you. Anything that you drink that's hot, it sneaks up real quick. Okay, so moving on from our drink, we're going to start making scones. The most important thing about scones that I have found is I like to keep everything super, super cold because you want that dough to be as cold as possible so that the butter doesn't start to melt when you're mixing it all together. So I have my bowl here that I'm going to put in. What do I have? I have 1/2 cup of sugar. I have 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I've got 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder. And my little trick is I keep my flour in the refrigerator right until the moment that I need it, so that way the butter doesn't melt. Okay, so into the bowl, I'm going to put my 2 cups of very cold flour. And then I have a stick of frozen butter. Like I said, the most important thing is that the butter is frozen, so that way it stays piecey in the dough and it melts while you're cooking it and not while you're mixing the dough together. Now you have a couple of options when it comes to mixing your dough. You can use 2 forks, you could use a pastry cutter, or you can be like me and be super lazy and use your food processor. So, what you're going to do is you're going to put all of your dry ingredients into the food processor and hopefully not get all of it on the counter. And then you're going to give that just a little pulse just to mix all of your dry ingredients together. And then we have our butter. The butter, like I said, has to be super cold so I couldn't prep it. Hi, Nick's dad. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so I've got my frozen butter chopped up, And you're gonna pulse it. Like I said, the most important thing is having those little pellets of frozen butter in there. So you don't wanna super incorporate it. You want it to still be tangible. When you're finished, it should look like little pieces of wet sand stuck into all of your dry ingredients. So I'm gonna give that a little pulse. I have every kitchen gadget. I know I said it before, but I will use any excuse to just pull all of them. And that should be good. Okay, so from there, I'm going to get that bowl back. We're gonna get our dry ingredients with the butter into that bowl. Make sure you get all of it. Okay, so from here, I'm going to get the buttermilk. So now this is where you can use whatever you have in the kitchen. You'll have a lighter scone if you use half and half. You'll have a little bit heavier one if you use double cream or heavy cream. I like to use buttermilk because it gives it a little bit of a tangy flavor. If you want to use buttermilk and you don't have it, you can use 1 cup of regular milk, take a tablespoon out, and then put in a tablespoon of lemon juice and let it sit for about 10-15 minutes, and it's gonna thicken and curdle a little bit, and then you'll have a very similar ingredient to buttermilk. So I've got my buttermilk here, and again, like I said before, you want everything to be super cold so you're not melting that butter. So into the buttermilk, I'm gonna go in with 1 egg and 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And you're just gonna beat that together until it's all mixed. And then this is gonna go right into your wet ingredients. Now, like I said in all of my posts leading up to tonight, this is your favorite scone recipe. So you're gonna use 1.5 cups of whatever your favorite ingredient is for scones. You can use any dried fruit, you can use frozen fruit, you can use berries. Tonight I'm gonna use Crasins. And like I've been saying is because we're in a little bit of a shortage of food and we have to be careful about what we use, to give us a little bit of variety, the ones that I prepped earlier today, I made chocolate chip for everybody in my house. So whenever you're putting anything into a dry batter, you want to mix it into the dry ingredients first because you want them to be coated in the flour. So I've got Crasins here. I'm going to mix that into the dry ingredients. I'm going to roll up my sleeve and I'm just going to mix it up just to get all of those Crasins covered in the flour. Once they're coated, they're not going to sink to the bottom and you're not going to have scone on top and then burnt whatever it is on the bottom. Okay, so from here, we're going to pour our wet ingredients right into the middle. And this is the part that gets messy. You have to do this part with your hands. And like I said before, I have every kitchen gadget. I found nothing that makes it easier. So we're just gonna get in there and mix it all up. By the time you're finished, it should be 1 ball of dough. And I like to really squeeze it and make sure that all of those wet ingredients are really getting into every little nook and cranny. So that way you have even scones when you put them into the oven. And then if I could have an assistant just do me a favor and get me a sheet of saran wrap. So at this point, after you get it into the full dough consistency, you're gonna put it into the refrigerator. You're gonna wanna refrigerate it for a minimum of 30 minutes. The longer you refrigerate it, the better of a chance you're going to have at keeping that true scone consistency. My little trick is with scones, you can do them 2 ways traditionally. You can do them, they're called drop scones. So that's literally exactly what it sounds like. You can just drop it onto your baking dish and let it be whatever shape it may take. The other one, which people are more used to seeing, is the little triangle scones. So my little trick into getting the scones into that triangle shape a lot easier is I make a square before I wrap it in the saran wrap. So that way when I take it out of the refrigerator, I can just cut it down the side and then have two big triangles and then cut those triangles in threes. So now that my dough is all formed, I turned it into what best I can into a square or a cube. And then I'm going to take my saran wrap. I'm going to place the dough in it. Get some of this off my hands. And then just give it a wrap. So like I said earlier, you want to sit this in the refrigerator for a minimum of 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes. I find that it's best if you do a full hour, so that way the butter really firms back up. And I'll be right back. Okay, and thanks to TV Magic, I have already refrigerated a half of my square, so that way I could bake the other half so you can see what they look like when they're all finished. Now, before I continue, just to go along with the theme of being clean and taking care of everything, we're going to have a quick hand washing lesson because I've seen quite a few people not doing it correctly. And in this time, you need to make sure you wash your hands right. My hand is completely covered in dough and it's disgusting. So I've got a bowl of warm water here. I'm going to use Dawn because my hands are covered in butter. And what I notice a lot of people forgetting, a nail brush. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna really make sure that your hand is tangibly clean. So you're gonna get off all the little debris from what you've been cooking with. And if your nails are covered in rhinestones, make sure you really get in there. Okay, so I've got all of that off my hands. And now we're going to get some soap and you're gonna sing happy birthday. I'm going to sing happy birthday in my head so that way you don't turn off my channel because nobody wants to hear me sing. So you're gonna really make sure that you get every nook and cranny. When I decided that I was gonna be making scones, I thought that it would be a good idea to do this because there's absolutely no way of making them without getting my hands into it. And I have real nails and it is very difficult to do anything when you feel ick underneath your nails. Okay, so my hands are now clean. I'm going to take my nail scrub brush and I'm going to get underneath my nails because bacteria doesn't just live on your skin, it lives under your nails and pretty much on any surface. And right now we have to be super careful. So I'm going to get into my cuticles. I'm going to get into my rhinestones. I'm going to dip my hands. 9 times out of 10 you don't have a bowl of warm water in front of you, but you get the idea. And all my cuticles, and then I'm just going to rinse. I would rinse with warm, clean water, but I don't want to turn my back to you because I love all of you so much. Okay, so my hands are nice and clean. And from here, I am going to cut my scones. Now, like I said, I prepared my dough into a square. So when I had that square, I cut it from corner to corner, so that way I had two big triangles. And now I have one big triangle. So this recipe for scones makes about 6 of them. So half of my square will make 3. So I like to score the dough, and that just means to create like a little line in it. So that way I can make sure that they're roughly the same size, because like I always say, it's really important for everything you're baking to be the same size, so that way it cooks evenly. So that is right. So I've got 1, 2, 3. Okay. Hi everybody, thank you for joining. Tonight we are making scones, and they're a DIY scone, so you can mix anything that you want into them and they're gonna come out perfect. On the other side, I also made a hot toddy. And it's still warm. It's so good. This just makes me think of like winter and snow days and everything when my mom would go to work and I was in high school. Long story. Don't drink. Okay, so I'm gonna grab a cookie sheet to put these guys on and put them directly into the oven. Okay, so with a clean, ungreased cookie sheet, we're gonna put our dough directly on. And you wanna make sure that they are evenly spaced apart. They're not gonna grow that much, but with scones, you really want an even amount of heat to get around them. At this point, you have two options. One, you can go straight into the oven now. And two, you can take a brush with a high-fat dairy, like half and half, buttermilk, heavy cream. Do a brush on top with that, and then sprinkle some sugar and put it into the oven. So you're gonna preheat your oven to 400 degrees, and you're gonna bake these for 20 to 25 minutes, and let's see what they look like when they're all done. And that is how you make a scone. These are literally the perfect consistency every single time. I have never bitten into a scone and found a chunk of butter or a spot in the scone that didn't have whatever you're putting into it, as long as you mix your dry ingredients first. So, I'm going to get a beautiful plate to put them on. Going to plate them up all nice. And that is my recipe for scones. Thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. Tomorrow night we will be starting my favorite dessert. It is called a Death by Chocolate. It's a trifle. So tomorrow night we'll be doing chocolate cake. The following night we'll be doing brownies. And then on the third night we will be making my favorite trifle. Thank you everybody for tuning in and have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Be healthy.